Alrighty, welcome back, and after way far too long, I'm finally back on the Jaguar. Now, it has been at least a year since I've really done anything on this. I kind of did a video a couple of months ago, but that wasn't really much. That was just kind of a really quick update. If you have not seen any of the videos up to this point, then please go back into my videos. I apologize, you got to go back over a year to see how I got to this point. If you don't want to go back all that time, I'll just give you a really quick update. Basically, this is the monogram 1/8 scale Jaguar XKE, and I bought it used on eBay, and all of the frame section here was bent and warped and broken into many pieces. So I remade all of the front frame out of brass. So this is all brass square stock and brass pieces that have been cut and soldered together and painted. And I have built up the engine. I've added a ton of extra detail. And basically, I've been using photos of the real car. And I have been using a shop manual that I bought on eBay a while ago, just to make sure I get the details correct. And I have been trying to make it look like the real car as best as I can. And I had to put this on hold because I started a Poacher Mercedes build that I recently finished and then got that sent to the customer. That was a commission build, so it took priority over this. And so you can kind of see, I'm trying to show off all of the details that I have on it. And but yeah, we are now finally ready to get back onto this build, and I want to start by finishing the engine. What I need to do, I took off all of the acorn nuts from here so that I could paint them chrome and then put them back on. And so I want to put those on. I want to put the spark plug wires on and then run them down to the distributor. And of course, that tape is just temporary to keep those wires out of the way. So I'll finish the top of the engine there, and then I will mount the battery. I'll put the battery in right there, and again, the battery is modified from the kit to be a little bit more realistic. Again, that was on a previous video how I did that. So I'll mount the battery here, and I'll then add the wiring. And on that quick update video that I did a couple of months ago, I just showed this wire that I got on eBay. It's a cloth covered wire, but the pattern here with that black and blue thread, that looks almost identical to the sheathing that they put around the wire harness on the real car. So I'm going to be running this starting down where the battery goes. There's a power block that'll go in there, and then that wire will get run along here and then over, and it'll split off to two of the bottles here. It'll split off to the generator. I'm assuming that's a generator. And then a couple wires here and a few wires down here where it connects to the headlights. So, like I said, I'm just going to finish the engine. I'll route the wiring. I'm not going to make you watch me do all of that. It's fairly simple, basic stuff, I think. But I'll come back and show you what that looks like when that part is all done. And then I want to focus on the suspension. I would really love to get the suspension on here so I could mount some wheels. And again, about a year ago, I was experimenting with making the new extension pieces. This is all brass, and it's been plated in liquid tin, but this is made out of brass. And there's the, well, that's the other side, the plastic piece. But there it is. So there's that side. So I got the plastic piece and the brass piece. I went ahead and made them out of brass because I want them to be a little bit more robust than the plastic. I don't want to take a chance of the plastic breaking. But I really need to get moving on this because it has been way too long, and I'm anxious to get this done because I have a ton of other projects that I'm just dying to start and finish. I've got a couple of other projects I really need to get on with as well. But yeah, I'll get back to you when this is ready, and we'll get on the suspension. Okay, I just wanted to come in and kind of show you where I'm at and what's been going on. I've got one of the plug wires installed, and in case you're curious, I am putting them into correct order. That is cylinder number 1, and that is where number 1 should go on the distributor there. I don't know if you can see that with the light very well. But anyways, they are going in the right spot because I've got the manual for the engine, so I know where they go. And I know it's completely pointless, but, you know, why not? So anyways, the way I'm doing that is, if you remember from several videos ago, I made all of these little guys right here. Those are the, I don't know what they're called, the end caps. So basically, I put the wire in it, I CA the wire in it, and of course, and that's just made out of a piece of brass tubing. Cut a hole in the side to go over the spark plug, and I plugged up the end with some CA. I painted it with the tester's rubber color. It's, I can't read that, but it's rubber. And CA'd that in. And then the other end, I'm actually using the boots from model motor cars, and I also went ahead and painted those the rubber color, and I drilled them out for the wire to fit through, and then I basically just slice them off with the X-Acto knife. And so there's one of those with the wire shoved in, and that's not glued on, that's loose enough it can slide around. I mean, it's tight enough it's not going to fall off. I mean, I had to press the wire in, but I can move that if I had to, like that, see? And then basically, I just put that on, and this will actually go on. Curve that around. I'll CA that onto the top of the spark plug, and then route the wire around, cut it to length, glue it in the hole, and then shove the boot down on top. So that's how the plug wires are going. Now for the battery again mounts over here, and I went ahead and bolted in a ground lug. Now I don't know for sure that that's where the battery ground goes. I've looked at multiple images, and I cannot find a good image of where the battery ground goes onto the frame. I found one picture that looked like it might go right about there, so that's where I put it, because that's the only thing I've got to go on. So when we take a look at the battery, there's that ground cable, and that will go in to that lug. So when I put the battery in, I'll just put some CA on the end of that. That'll get plugged into that ground lug socket that's bolted into the firewall there. And then this one will go into this block here. I'll show you that better here in a second. But with the battery, you can see I've got the terminal posts, and those are actually made out of lead, just like the real car. Basically melted down some solder and drilled a hole in it, cut and filed it to shape, and then just kind of mounted the wires. Now when I look at photos, I'm actually looking at this photo for my reference, and you can see that on this photo, this wire is obviously black, and this wire kind of looks yellow, but I think that's yellow heat shrink they put on it. When I look at photos of the real car, sometimes one is black and one is red. Sometimes they're both black. Sometimes they're more inboard over here. Sometimes the battery is flipped around, so this one is stretched over here and this one is stretched over here. Sometimes that just looks like a steel braided cable. The terminal, whatever you call those, I've seen about 3 or 4 different styles of those. I've seen about 5 or 6 different styles of batteries. I've seen about 3 or 4 different setups here. So it's like every image you look at is very slightly different. So I kind of go with the majority. So most of them, both wires are black, so that's what I did. And as far as this piece here, now the kit came with the little box with a molded in plastic bracket, but the molded on plastic bracket was too thick, not really shaped the way this is. So I basically cut that off and I made my own little bracket and glued the box onto it. Also notice the connector here. The kit box did not have the connector, so I made my own with a piece of styrene. So if we take a look at that box, that's what we're looking at here. I basically made the bracket out of a piece of, I think it's 10. It's this stuff right here. This cuts very easily with a pair of scissors, and it solders like really easy. Cuts, drills, and solders very nicely. So I just cut out the pieces and bent it and soldered the little mounting tabs on here. That's the box from the kit, and mounted to that bracket. That's where the other terminal or the other wire will go. So when I put the battery in, obviously that cable's way too long, but when I put the battery in, you know, it'll be setting something like that. Of course, that'll get cut off. So that's the way those pieces look. As far as the wire loom, I showed this before. This will basically get routed right up and just kind of end right up under there, and it'll just get strapped to this bar across here. I'm also having to install the brake lines because once I put the battery in and the wire loom here, well, the wire loom gets strapped to this bar across here. Well, so does the brake line for the front brakes. So I want to put that in kind of at the same time. And when you look at photos, the brake line will run across here, then it goes to like a T-fitting, and then one line will come out to the left wheel and one line goes out to the right wheel. And that little T-fitting has a pressure switch on the top, and there's what I've got going on for that T-fitting so far. It's just brass. The top, I'll put some wires in there to look like the pressure switch, but that's the little T-fitting for the brakes. And the brake lines that I'm using 1mm aluminum wire. And I'm actually out. I need to get some more. It looks like this, but this is 1.5. That's 1.5 millimeters, just a little bit too thick. I think it looks kind of silly strapped on top there because it's just too thick. So today after work, I need to buy some 1mm aluminum wire, and then we can start putting brake lines in. But that's the way it's going so far. Anyways, like I said, once I get all that stuff in, we'll get started on the suspension. So be back with you in here in just a few minutes. All right, let me show you where we're at. And as you can see, I got the decal here. And I think eventually I'll mask around that and put some clear coat on that because I think it's a little bit too flat, needs to be a little bit shiny. And again, I'm basing most of what I'm doing off of the photo of the real car. So I think that placard should be a little shiny. So I'll put a clear coat on it. Also, I showed you that piece. I have it installed now. I'll take a look at it in a second. Also, another photo that I looked at of the car showed a data plate right here. And I have the decal for that data plate. This photo doesn't have it, but other photos I looked at did have this right here. So I'll be putting that decal here, unless I see another photo that shows it somewhere better. But right now the plan is to put it here. I'll do that later. But anyway, so here is that box mounted in place, and the cable, the battery cable going to the piece up there, and then the other battery cable. See if we can get the lighting in there. You could see where that ground point attaches right down in there. And I'm realizing I kind of screwed up because I didn't remove the paint, and so now it's not going to get a good electrical ground. So hopefully that doesn't cause problems. We have the rod there, the simulated threaded rod with the wing nut, and of course we have the wing nut on the other side right there with the rod. And so there's the battery and the electrical box installed. You can see the wiring loom coming along here. Now those straps are basically just thin strips of aluminum that I wrapped around, and then the decal sheet. This decal sheet that I got on eBay had decals for tie wraps or tie straps, and that's what those are. So those are the decals to make it look like tie straps. Now there weren't enough, So the ones that I put here, I'm just saying that those are more of a metal clamp and not like a tie strap. But there you can see the pressure switch where the brake lines come in. I still need to put one more brake line in. So there will be one more brake line coming in from the bottom going over to the left wheel. But I do have that brake line, and it's just kind of coiled up right there until I'm ready to finish the brakes. I need to make a couple more straps for the wire loom down here. So I'll put another strap here and here, then the wire loom will be done. I also want to take some wires. When you look at photos of the real car, there's wiring to the caps of those two bottles that go down to the wire loom. So I want to add those wires. Wires from the pressure switch. So I still need to make the top of the pressure switch to here. I still need to add the vacuum line from here all the way over to here, and then the water heater line from there to the firewall. So there's still a lot of just tiny stuff to do. This is one of those things where it seems like the more I work on it, the more stuff I have to do. You know, I'm thinking, you know, when I was talking about this earlier, I said, oh, all I got to do is put the battery in and I'm ready to do suspension. Well, I did that, then I had to do, you know, more stuff, and then more stuff, then I'm seeing other stuff I haven't done yet. So there's a lot of just small, tedious stuff that I still need to do. But you can see I did get the wires in for the ignition wires in there, wired up to the distributor. And hopefully that's focusing and you can see it okay. But there's the distributor. But yeah, I mean, it's almost ready for suspension. I think I'm going to end this video here because it's probably plenty long enough. I don't think I need to record putting little wires in here. That's pretty straightforward. Or putting the hose in here. That's going to be kind of tough, I'm afraid. I kind of wish I would have put that hose in there first before I put the engine in. Now I'm going to have to snake it around there somehow, but you know, hopefully that'll go okay. Just a few other things to point out. The hoop here and here, I saw those on a couple of photos. Like if you look at images of the real car, you'll see that on a few of them. Usually they don't have those, but sometimes they do. Those are lifting hooks for when you remove the engine or whatever. And I kind of like the look of those in there. I kind of think it adds just a little bit extra, just a little bit something else to look at. So I got those in there. Got the acorn nuts put back on. So anyways, I got to do a little bit more tidying up to do with the wiring and some other plumbing and stuff. And then I'm ready for the suspension. The next video of this will be starting with the suspension. One other thing to add, notice the wires here. Those wires actually go through the loom and they come out right there, up in underneath. These will be for the headlights if I decide to make the headlights work. Right now I'm on the fence on if I want to actually make the headlights work or not. On one hand, working headlights would be cool, but on the other hand, working headlights are very time-consuming and tedious to get right, and it's one more thing that could fail. Now, if I was building this for me and keeping it for myself, and if I did put the headlights in, if the headlights failed, I would be able to fix it because I'm the one who did it. Or I would just live with it not working. But if I sell this, which I plan on doing, I got to think about the fact that the future owner of this might not want to take it apart to fix the headlights. So if I make the headlights work and then they fail, now he's going to have a model that doesn't work. So, but if I make it just completely static with no working headlights, then they weren't there to worry about in the first place. So yeah, headlights are cool, but they're such a pain in the rear. And when they fail, that's even worse. So I'm still on the fence on if I want to make the headlights or not. If I decide not to, I can just cut that wire out and no big deal. But if I decide to, then it's going to be a whole lot easier that that wire is already in here. So that will just get, if I do it, that'll just get wired to the headlights. This will go back to a battery box and a switch somewhere. And again, you got to figure out where do you put the battery box, where do you put the switch so it won't be noticeable. I could do what Poacher did and make it actually go to the key. That would be kind of cool. But we'll just have to see. That's for future me to worry about. But hopefully the lighting is okay. There's a lot of dark in here, so I think the lighting might be kind of hard to see some of that stuff. But yeah, this is where I'll end it. And Like I said, when we come back to this next time, I'll just point out the little things I added, but we will be focusing on the suspension. After the suspension is done, I would really like to get the radiator and cooling done. Then we can start fitting the hood. And I'm really kind of looking forward to fitting the hood. And also, just to throw it out there, when you look at the wheels, this is one of the kit wheels. Now, this is already built up when I got the kit. Like I said before, I think I said before, I bought this kit used. It was already partially assembled. The kit wheels look pretty decent. I'm not mad at that, but I would really like to do real spokes. So I've been thinking about a few ways of remaking the wheel so I could put actual spokes in there. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like I said, these wheels look pretty good, but we'll just kind of have to see how that goes and how that works out. So anyways, like I said, I'm going to end it here. And as always, until next time, thanks for watching.